Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I am Pocut Putri Jasmin Alyani and I am back again with another video. But this time, instead of reviewing a textbook, I will do an article summary. Today, I will talk about 10 articles that are related to teaching English as a foreign language. But first, I will tell you a little information about myself. Okay, so about me, my name is Pocut Putri Jasmin Alyani from class 4C. My student number is 102 and I am a student of English Education Department at UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta and I am currently in my 4th semester. Now, let's get to the articles. The first article that I'm going to talk about is Developing Speaking Skill in EFL English course by Citra Priski Abadi. It was published in 2015. So, this article's main purpose are to describe factors contributing the development of speaking skill and to describe techniques and strategies used by the teachers to develop speaking skill in EFL English course. The research design that is used was an ethnography principle. 80 Peace English Academy students from 4 different grade levels, 4 teachers, and 1 house principal participated in the study. The information was gathered from observations, interviews, and field notes as well as artifacts. And it was found in the research that teachers' factor is the main factors impacting process variables of developing speaking skills because the activities of developing speaking skill completed in class connected with teacher formative experiences, teacher training experiences, and teaching skills. A language teacher's role is to provide the most ideal learning environments. Teachers act differently under different circumstances. The teachers are playing active roles in developing speaking skills. In order to improve students' speaking abilities, they use a variety of teaching methods. They focus on engaging in actual activities through conversation, debate, role-playing, oral reports, and question and answer sessions. When we talk about developing speaking skill in EFL, of course, there will be some teaching involved to improve their speaking skill. And teachers must have their own perspectives in teaching speaking EFL. But in this case, we will talk about their perspectives in teaching EFL speaking virtually. That's why the next article that I will talk about is Teachers' Perspectives on Teaching Speaking EFL Virtually, a case study of COVID-19 pandemic survival. The purposes of the study are to investigate, analyze, explore, and elaborate on teachers' beliefs and strategies in teaching speaking English as a foreign language during the COVID-19 outbreak. 5 teachers were recruited to answer the research questions to determine what they thought, felt, and did during the COVID-19 pandemic. They were aged between 30 and 50 years old, and their teaching experience averaged more than 5 years. Each of them was asked to do an interview at a different location and time, and the findings showed that most teachers used a mix of instructional strategies, with the most popular learning activities being language, psychomotor activities, video displays, and cross-disciplinary activities. Initially negative, the teachers' moods gradually shifted to become more optimistic. According to teachers, technology problems, a lack of resources and parental support, and a lack of training in online techniques were the main drawbacks of online education. Positive teacher experiences emphasized introducing children to technology and keeping them engaged in the classroom while highlighting the value of parental involvement. Speaking of teaching speaking English as a foreign language, of course, there will be interaction patterns between teachers and students. That's why the next article that I will talk about is exploring interaction patterns in EFL teaching and learning context. The purpose of the study is to explore types of interaction patterns in teaching speaking English as a foreign language that are implemented by the teachers, the problems they faced, and solutions done to solve the problems. The method used is qualitative type of research and implemented descriptive method in analyzing the data. This research chose 3 of English lecturers who teach English at Language Development Center of UIN Padang Sidimpuan 1 as participants. In this research, the researchers used observation supported by interview as data collection technique. In this research, the researcher used Miles and Huberman's theory in analyzing the data, which covers data reduction, data display, and conclusion verification. And the findings showed that there are some types of interaction patterns implemented by the teachers in teaching English, namely group work, closed-ended teachers questioning, open-ended teachers questioning, individual work, choral responses, full class interaction, students initiate and teachers answer, and teachers talk. However, there is one type of interaction pattern that has never been implemented by the 3 teachers observed, which is self-access. Earlier, I have talked about teaching speaking English as a foreign language virtually. And when we talk about teaching virtually, of course, we can't forget about social media, right? That's why the next article that I will talk about is the role of social media in improving EFL learners' speaking skill, a teacher's perspective. The purposes of the study are to find out if there is a positive role of social media on EFL learners' speaking skills, explore the learners' attitudes towards using social media to develop EFL speaking skills, and investigate the impact of social media on EFL passive learners. The method used was descriptive analytical method. For the data collection, the researchers used a questionnaire. The questionnaire included 12 questions. Each question has 3 options: agree, agree to some extent, and disagree. A sample of 30 EFL teachers who teach the English language at the secondary level in Wad Medani locality in Sudan was randomly selected. The data were analyzed by using Statistical Package for Social Sciences, or SPSS program, and the findings showed that social media can help teachers in improving their speaking course assignments so that their students can participate and improve their speaking abilities. Above all, it's important to make it clear that social media cannot be dismissed as merely amusing. Instead, they have made a big difference in the fields of research and teaching. As social media has made some aspects of teacher and student obligations clearer and more flexible, teachers may be willing to adopt new methodologies in order to keep up with technological improvements. Students now use social media on a regular basis, so including online discussions in class should both create a fun environment and keep the student moving in the direction of skill improvement. Speaking about the role of social media in teaching speaking EFL, I think YouTube can be one of the tools to teach speaking EFL. That's why now I will talk about using YouTube for speaking in online learning, EFL students' perception and difficulties. The purpose of this study is to investigate students' perception toward the use of YouTube in improving EFL speaking skill during online learning, and to know students' difficulties and how they solve them. The method used was qualitative type of research. The researcher used one research instrument, which was questionnaire. The type of questionnaire was open-ended questionnaire, and 2 major components of perception are the perceiver and target of what being perceived. This research involved non-English department. The total number of the participants in this study consists 32 students. There were 28 female students and 4 male students. 32 students received questionnaire. These participants were selected by using convenience sampling method, which were categories for willingness, available, and accessible. And the findings showed that YouTube is a helpful and accessible media to be during online learning since it provides so much educational videos to learn speaking and other skills. However, some difficulties were also found in this study. Students stated that they have problems with their connection, with unstable signal, and ability to understand the video because of vocabularies, pronunciations, accents, and fluency from the speaker. Using YouTube also creates students' boredom. To solve these difficulties, students have made some solutions such as browsing, finding Wi-Fi, and discussing with friends. In conclusion, YouTube is one of the accessible social medias which can be utilized to learn speaking. Although some difficulties were found, this still can be avoided for the students. We have talked about YouTube as a tool to learn speaking AFL in online classes. Now we should talk about the alternative, which is digital storytelling. That's why the next article that I will talk about is Authentic Digital Storytelling as Alternative Teaching Strategy to Develop Speaking Skills in EFL Classes. This study aims to discover whether using ICT resources during real-world tasks enhances students' speaking abilities. Students' narratives served as the output for the intervention activity, which the researchers used real digital storytelling, and essential elements were examined after the intervention. The study used a quantitative approach in two phases, the survey administration and the application of a quasi-experimental method. In the first phase, a validated survey was administered to teachers and students to determine the general methods teachers used in teaching speaking skills and the activities students were exposed to in developing this type of productive skill. The second phase following the survey was the administration of a quasi-experimental method to determine the effect of authentic digital storytelling on student speaking skill. The participants in this research study were 16 researchers and 50 EFL students in each group, respectively. According to the results, nearly half of the respondents stated that they hardly ever utilize web-based software tools that enable them to record and listen to their voices, including audio, video, and text in order to improve their speaking abilities, because it is crucial to the development of students' oral abilities. Teachers should use technology through realistic digital storytelling into their lesson plans. Earlier, I have talked about the teaching process and the tools. Of course, after that, we can't forget about the feedback. But since we have talked about online classes, we are going to talk about online feedback. So that's why the next article that I will talk about is Exploring Perceptions of Online Feedback in Teaching EFL Speaking and Writing Skills During the COVID-19 Pandemic. The goal of the study was to examine students' impressions of the online feedback given in English as a foreign language classrooms during the COVID-19 epidemic, with a focus on improving speaking and writing abilities. 102 teachers, 40 managers, 80 parents, and 120 students from junior high schools, senior high schools, and further education levels from 40 public and private educational institutions in southern Ecuador participated in this study. The sample selection was based on purposeful sampling. The instruments included surveys from parents, teachers, students, and educational authorities. Additionally, a student interview was conducted to find out what the students thought of the feedback they got through speaking and writing activities. And it has been found in the research that online feedback is perceived as an aspect that seems to have a better quality in private institutions, especially in activities related to EFL speaking and writing skills. Another important finding was that technological tools in the EFL classroom are believed to be efficient since teachers in public and private institutions use a variety of technological resources for teaching speaking and writing skills. The fundamental aspects of feedback were time and teacher training. Earlier, I have talked about online feedback in general, right? Now, I will talk about EFL learners' preferences of corrective feedback in speaking activities. The purpose of this study is to find out Saudi EFL learners' perceptions of CF during speaking activities in the classroom, including their preferences and providing teachers with a number of practical insights. This research used quantitative and qualitative methods, using a questionnaire to determine learners' corrective feedback preferences for the correction of errors made during speaking activities, followed by interviews with 10 learners to discuss further details and the motivations behind these preferences. The results showed that the students' attitudes toward CF during speaking exercises were good, and they firmly agreed that their teachers' corrective feedback might help them become more effective communicators. The survey also discovered that students preferred to have immediate response from their teachers, whom they believed to be the most qualified people to deliver such evaluation. Additionally, a large percentage of respondents preferred to getting corrective feedback for their vocal grammar mistakes. Aside from the corrective feedback, I will talk about the effectiveness of native and non-native English teachers on EFL learners' accuracy, fluency, and complexity in speaking. This research aimed to investigate the impact of teacher type, native versus non-native, on the oral performance of male intermediate English as foreign language learners between the ages of 14 and 20 who possessed similar language proficiency levels. This research used qualitative type of research. The participants were selected based on the results of a written test and an oral interview and were divided into two classes, one taught by a native speaker and the other by a non-native speaker. Following a month treatment period, each learner was interviewed and their speech was recorded. The researchers analyzed the data for accuracy, fluency, and lexical complexity. The results of this research have implications for policymakers, administrators, and those involved in the employment and training of language teachers. First, hiring a native speaker of English, irrespective of their teaching knowledge and experience, is not a viable option. A language teacher should not only be a good conversationalist, but also have academic knowledge about language teaching. Different methods and post methods practiced in the past and present, and there are pros and cons to adopt a principled elective method. Second, the study highlights the importance of organizing language teaching practices. Any deficits in the education of English teachers should be urgently addressed, since it will impact learners and language schools, favoring highly qualified teachers over those who are just native speakers. Such a policy will have a significant impact on language pedagogy, as well as other social issues such as sociology and the economy. Now, in developing speaking EFL, there must be some anxiety that the students experienced. Now we will talk about factors causing English speaking anxiety in EFL context, a case study among postgraduate students in Indonesia. The purpose of this research is to show a different point of view in researching language anxiety among adult learners. It will explore problems relating to the effect of language anxiety on speaking motivation, the causes, and the ways students cope with speaking anxiety. The research design that is used are quantitative and qualitative. The participants of this research were 13 students from a postgraduate class in the Language Education Department majoring in English Education at Islamic State University Semarang. They were adult EFL students who had acquired 3 languages or more. This research used semi-open-ended questionnaires to gather data from the participants. And it has been found in the research that postgraduate students also experience English speaking anxiety. The ESA's primary source is the feeling of less confidence, fear of criticism, situation, the feeling that other students do better, the influence of L1, and lack of the target language knowledge. ESA has a negative effect on the students' speaking performance. It's also experienced by postgraduate students. However, the significant effect of language anxiety is its effect on the individual language learner. The students feel uneasy about speaking a foreign language. Finally, from the result of the questionnaires, the students claimed that they overcame their ESA by practicing. I think that was all from me. Hope it will be useful for you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goodbye.